Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, met with the convicted Israeli spy, Jonathan Pollard, back in July, and it's being reported now by the New York Times. Now, for those who don't know, the Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard is the the worst Israeli spy in the United States we've had, at least recorded, that the public knows about. This man was stealing U.S. intelligence information for a very long time, very serious U.S. intelligence information, and he was convicted and put in prison for decades. So in July, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee met privately with Jonathan Pollard, the former naval analyst convicted in 1985 of spying for Israel by passing classified documents. Three U.S. officials confirmed the off-the-record session at the Jerusalem embassy, attended by Huckabee's advisor, which broke the norms and alarmed the CIA station chief. Pollard paroled in 2015 and moved to Israel in 2020, called it friendly and restated his lack of regrets, while the news drew bipartisan criticism on X over the optics and espionage history. This is a guy that goes insofar to threaten the United States, and I'm going to play that in a whole different video because it needs a video of its own, where he went on record and threatened that the United States should be nuked if the United States didn't supply Israel with the weapons for the war in Gaza. I have this video. Not that many people have seen it. It's pretty shocking. So I'm gonna play it here in the next video in about a few hours. So of course people on social media are going off saying, what the hell is going on? This is a guy who was a convicted Israeli agent, and Mike Huckabee is having a friendly meeting with him in Israel. The CIA didn't know. Apparently the White House didn't know, and the White House was very alarmed. What the hell is Mike Huckabee doing as a U.S. official meeting with Israeli spies who are coming out publicly stating, we have no problem to threaten and to nuke the United States. We've done it before. Again, I'm going to be playing that video in like an hour or so. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't seen it. This is ridiculous. Jonathan Pollard, Max Blumenthal, was an Israeli spy who gave massive troves of U.S. intel to Tel Aviv. Here he celebrates the Israel blackmailing the U.S. with nuclear weapons. Jonathan Pollard is a convicted traitor to the United States, and Mike Huckabee welcomed him into the U.S. Embassy. Here's the New York Times article that reported on this previously. So let me go ahead and share my screen now. Huckabee held meeting at U.S. Embassy with American who spied for Israel. It's interesting how, of course, the New York Times doesn't want to simply say Huckabee held meeting at U.S. Embassy for Israeli spy, or for American traitor that spied for Israel, or for American who stole U.S. intelligence for Israel. But of course, the New York Times is going to write it in the most cozy and comforting way to make Israel look good. So the article goes on and says Jonathan Pollard was convicted for espionage. He said in an interview that the meeting, which was highly unusual for a U.S. diplomat to attend, had been friendly. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, President Trump's envoy to Israel, met with the United States Embassy in Jerusalem in July with Jonathan Pollard, an American who spent 30 years in prison for spying for Israel. The highly unusual meeting caught some U.S. officials by surprise and appeared to be a sharp break with years of precedent for American diplomats. The New York Times learned of the meeting from three U.S. officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive information. When the Times asked Mr. Pollard about the meeting, he confirmed it. Mr. Pollard said it was the first time that a U.S. official had hosted him at an American government office since his release a decade ago. It goes on. It was a friendly meeting, Mr. Pollard said in a phone interview on Wednesday. The meeting, with Mr. Pollard, a former naval intelligence analyst, was kept off Mr. Huckabee's official schedule, two U.S. officials said. So Mr. Huckabee intentionally did not want the U.S. government to know. Not only that, the White House didn't know. The fact that it occurred alarmed the Central Intelligence Agency's station chief in Israel. Three officials said. The CIA declined to comment. The White House was not aware of the meeting in advance, according to White House officials, and two briefed on the matter. The White House officials said that senior officials were alarmed when they had learned it taken place. It was unclear whether officials at the State Department had signed off on Mr. Huckabee's meeting with Mr. Pollard in advance. The State Department did not respond to a request for comment. In a statement, the U.S. Embassy said Mr. Huckabee had meetings with numerous people, and as a matter of general policy, we do not comment as to the content of conversations. It also claimed that the Times reporting from this article was filled with inaccuracies. BS. BS, Mike Huckabee, BS. Mr. Pollard was convicted of spying for Israel and sentenced to life in prison in 1987 in one of the most notorious espionage cases of the Cold War. While many Americans viewed him as a traitor, some Israelis, especially those on the right, considered him a hero and lobbied for him until he was released on parole in 2015. 5 years later, he moved to Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave him a hero's welcome on the tarmac at the Ben Gurion airport. It is unclear why Mr. Huckabee and his senior advisor, David Milstein, agreed to meet Mr. Pollard. Mr. Huckabee and Mr. Milstein have made efforts to cultivate ties with Israelis, right, with whom Mr. Pollard identified. So, of course, we could tell that. I wonder how close his senior advisor, David Milstein, a very staunch Jewish Zionist, by the way, would meet with Mike Huckabee, would meet with Jonathan Pollard and put him into Mike Huckabee's schedule off the record. So there's something to be said here with the fact that it's off the record, because why does a U.S. official not want the White House to know that he's having any sort of meeting with an Israeli spy that was put in prison for 30 years? Why would he not want the White House to know? Why would the CIA chief be alarmed? Now, of course, the White House could have known and pretended that they didn't know, because they knew it would have upset Trump's base, especially the younger generation. That could be a very honest event that took place that could have happened, or the White House could have seriously not known, and the CIA station's chief could have seriously been alarmed, or maybe they want the American public to think, no, we had no idea Mike Huckabee is acting alone, in which case they would be throwing Mike Huckabee under the bus, and I question that as well. So it's one of the two things. Regardless, what on earth does the U.S. ambassador to Israel have anything to do or need to meet with a convicted Israeli spy who has no problem nuking America? What does it, on what grounds is that justified? Now, of course, keep in mind that back in 2011, Mike Huckabee was lobbying and putting pressure on Obama to release Jonathan Pollard, stating that it would be good for America to strengthen our relationship with our ally Israel. So here's the thing: this Mike Huckabee, of course, he's an evangelical Christian, and I have a really big issue with using religion to with warping religion in a way to justify allegiance to a foreign state. Now, I'm very honest about everything. People asked me previously, what religion are you, Wally? I grew up Muslim for 10 years. I've been agnostic for 10. I've been attending church on and off for 2. That's been what I've been up to. I'm pretty that's my thing. Regardless of what my religious beliefs were, if my religious beliefs compelled me in any sort of way to have allegiance with a foreign country, that's a huge conflict of interest. Huge conflict of interest. So why is this guy doing it, and why are American officials allowing this to happen? Why? It's really worrying. It's really worrying. Now, is this guy simply just cucking for Israel, and he genuinely views Israel as an ally because of his religion and because he thinks they're God's chosen people? I mean, the guy goes on interviews, Mike Huckabee here, he goes on interviews in front of Jewish Zionists and just tells them that they're chosen and that they're above him. What reality are we in where this guy is the U.S. ambassador to Israel and this is the type of rhetoric that he says? You can all search up Mike Huckabee on YouTube and find videos of him doing these interviews talking about the chosen people. I have love for everybody, and I genuinely, it's your religious group shouldn't be enticed for hate. But here's the thing: when it's being used for allegiance to a foreign country and being used to alter politics, there's a huge conflict of interest there. That's not okay. That's not okay. So people are very clearly upset on social media because his loyalty doesn't seem to be relying with the United States. If you're an evangelical Christian and your loyalty to Israel is so strong because you have a belief that God says you must stand with Israel, then I question whether your belief in God saying you must stand with Israel is above your allegiance to your country. And if it is, then you shouldn't be serving in the United States. that's just matter of fact. I'm ethnically Palestinian. I've said that a lot before. If I was in a situation where I'd never run for politics. Absolutely not. If I in a hypothetical reality where I was, if I felt like I couldn't put America above Palestine in any sort of way, I wouldn't run for American office unless I'd be willing to do things in the interest of America that could hurt Palestine if it really benefited American policy. That's ultimately it. If I was a politician in Palestine, then I would have to put Palestine above any other country. I think that's just matter of fact. It makes sense. So there's a huge issue here with these American politicians subservient to a foreign country, and Americans are supposed to just take it and just be like, okay, this is how life is. What? It's ridiculous. It's just, dude, I'm sick of this. So that's really it. That's really all I wanted to say for this video. I mean, people are just going off on social media about this. Huckabee may have been an Epstein client. That could be one thing, Paul, but I genuinely believe his religion is honestly just making him subservient in of itself, which is pretty wild to me. Mr. Huckabee, Israeli first-year Zionist and fifth columnist meeting with an Israeli spy. Absolutely. So that's it's all crazy. Dual citizenship must end. Definitely agree, Ronnie. That's everything I really wanted to share with this video, guys. If you haven't yet, go ahead and click the subscribe button below. And I'm gonna, in about 20 minutes here, I'm gonna be making the next video on Jonathan Pollard going out publicly just last year stating that he would gladly nuke the United States for not supporting the war in Gaza. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit here.